Part 1: War Command Decision System. It always starts the same way. Not with explosions. Not with tanks rolling across borders. With a phone call. 17 a.m. The line is secure. The voice on the other end doesn't raise itself. It doesn't need to. Sir, it's begun. And in that exact moment, before the first missile lands, a human brain has to switch gears. Instantly. Completely. Because now you're not planning a war anymore. You're inside one. Imagine you're that commander. 48 hours ago, you were reviewing logistics reports. Fuel reserves, troop rotations, maintenance cycles. Now, you're responsible for decisions that will move 50,000 soldiers, burn through $2 billion in equipment, and determine whether entire cities still exist tomorrow. No pressure. And here's the part most people miss. War isn't chaos inside a commander's head. It's layers. Structured. Methodical. Almost mechanical. Because if it was, they'd freeze. And freezing. That's how you lose everything. There are systems running in that brain. Multiple at once. Think of it like this. 5 parallel tracks. All moving at full speed. Intelligence. Time. Risk. Logistics. Psychology. Miss one and the entire operation collapses. Let's start at the bottom layer. The one everything else is built on. Because before you can act, you need to know what's real. Intelligence. Sounds simple, right? Information. It's not. It's fragments. A satellite image from 12 minutes ago. A drone feed with a 3-second delay. A radio intercept that might be real. Or might be a decoy. In March 2022, a Ukrainian drone unit called Aerorozvidka was tracking Russian armored columns outside Kyiv. One operator, Petro, 38, former software engineer, was staring at a thermal screen at 2:40 a.m. He saw heat signatures. Dozens. Tanks. Trucks. Infantry. But here's the problem: thermal doesn't tell you intent. Are they advancing? Retreating? Setting a trap? He had 90 seconds to decide what to report. 90. Because artillery was already being prepped based on his call. He guessed they were regrouping. He was right. The strike destroyed an estimated 8 vehicles. If he was wrong, they would have wasted precision munitions worth over $500,000 and revealed their own position. That's intelligence in war. Not certainty. Probability. And it gets worse. Because the enemy is actively trying to poison your data. Electronic warfare, that's weapons that don't shoot bullets. They shoot signals. They can fake GPS coordinates, jam communications, even create ghost units that don't exist. In 2008, during the Russia-Georgia conflict, Georgian forces reported phantom Russian units on their systems. They weren't there, but commanders still had to react as if they might be. Imagine making life-and-death decisions based on something that could literally be fake. That's layer 1. And it never turns off. Now stack the second layer on top. Time. Not just what time is it. Operational time. Everything in war is timing. Too early. You expose yourself. Too late. You're already dead. In June 1944, during D-Day, Allied commanders had a window, just a few hours, where tides, moonlight, and patrol patterns aligned. Miss that window. You delay the invasion weeks. Maybe months. Thousands more die. Now fast forward to modern war. The window isn't hours anymore. It's minutes. Sometimes seconds. A cruise missile traveling at 800 km/h. Gives you maybe 2-3 minutes from detection to impact. A hypersonic missile, Mach 5 or higher, over 6,000 km/h. You're looking at under 60 seconds. That's not decision-making. That's instinct. And here's the brutal truth. You don't get full information before acting. You act, then information catches up, which means every decision is slightly outdated the moment you make it. Always. Now layer 3. Risk. This is where it gets uncomfortable. Because every option is bad. You're not choosing between good and bad. You're choosing between bad and worse. Do you push your armored brigade forward, knowing there's a 30% chance of an ambush? Or hold position and risk the enemy reinforcing? In 1991, during the Gulf War, General Norman Schwarzkopf had to decide whether to execute the famous left hook maneuver. It worked. It crushed Iraqi forces. But at the time, it meant sending tens of thousands of troops into largely unmapped terrain with uncertain enemy positions. If Iraq had anticipated it, that maneuver could have turned into a slaughter. This is what commanders carry: probabilities, lives attached to them, and hesitation. Kills. Too slow, you lose initiative. Too fast, you make mistakes. There's no perfect speed, just less wrong. Now we hit the layer most people ignore. Logistics. The boring stuff. Fuel, food, ammunition, maintenance. Except it's not boring. It's everything. Napoleon once said, "An army marches on its stomach. No supplies, no army." In 2022, Russian forces advancing toward Kiev stalled. Not because they ran out of weapons, but because they ran out of fuel. A 64-kilometer convoy, imagine that length, just stopped, sitting targets, because someone somewhere miscalculated supply lines. Doesn't matter how advanced your tanks are. No fuel. There's scrap metal. And logistics isn't static. It's dynamic. Every shot fired changes your future capability. Fire 100 artillery shells now. That's 100 you don't have later. So every trigger pull is also a strategic decision. That's the layer commanders calculate in the background. Without it, everything collapses. Now we get to the most unpredictable layer. Psychology. Not yours. Everyone's. Your troops. The enemy. Your own mind. Because war isn't just machines and maps. It's people. And people break. A good commander isn't just issuing orders. They're managing fear. In 2003, during the invasion of Iraq, U.S. Marine officers reported drastic differences in performance. Same training. Same equipment. Different outcomes. Why? Morale. Belief. Confidence in leadership. You can have the best plan in the world. If your troops don't believe in it, it falls apart. And the enemy knows this. That's why psychological warfare exists. Spreading fear, misinformation, and doubt. You're surrounded. Your commanders abandoned you. Even if it's not true. Because if you believe it, it becomes real. And then there's the commander's own mind. Fatigue. After 36 hours awake, cognitive performance drops significantly. Reaction time slow, judgment gets worse. Now imagine making missile strike decisions in that state. No reset button. No pause. Just keep going. So this is what's happening. At the exact moment war begins, a commander's brain becomes a system, processing incomplete information, under extreme time pressure, balancing risk, tracking logistics, managing human emotion, all at once. And we haven't even touched the next level yet. Because everything we've talked about so far, that's just the foundation. The real shift, the one that separates great commanders, happens when these layers stop being separate and start influencing each other. That's where things get complicated. Fast. Because now, you're not just fighting a battle. You're fighting a system. Multiple fronts. Multiple objectives. Multiple timelines. And every decision in one place affects everything else. Miss it, and the entire war starts slipping through your fingers. Which is exactly where we're going next. Continue. Part 2: War as a living system. Now everything starts bleeding together. Not metaphorically. Literally. Intelligence affects timing. Timing reshapes risk. Risk drains logistics. Logistics breaks psychology. And psychology loops back and distorts intelligence. This is where war stops being a checklist and turns into a living system. Unstable. Unforgiving. Always moving. Let's go back to that commander. It's now 06:10 a.m. 3 hours into the war. New reports are coming in. Vast. A drone confirms enemy armor moving south. Signals intelligence intercepted radio chatter suggests low fuel. But satellite imagery, delayed by 15 minutes, shows reinforcements arriving. 3 data points. All technically true. All pointing in different directions. So what's real? This is where experience kicks in. Colonel James Whittaker, fictional composite. Built from real NATO after-action reports. He spent 22 years in armored warfare. He knows something junior officers don't. Patterns. He's seen this before. Enemy units appearing weak. Right before a counterattack. So he hesitates. Just for a second. Then decides. Hold position. Prepare anti-armor defenses. 30 minutes later. The counterattack comes. If he had pushed forward, his lead battalion would have been exposed. Possibly destroyed. That's not luck. That's pattern recognition under pressure. And it only comes from one place. Experience paid for mistakes. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Every good commander was once wrong. Badly wrong. A misread signal. A delayed order. A misjudged risk. And people paid for it. That memory doesn't go away. It becomes part of the system. But there's a limit. Human brains aren't built for this. Not at this scale. So modern warfare added something new. Machines. Decision support systems. Not full AI generals, we're not there yet. But tools that assist. They process thousands of data points in seconds. Predict likely enemy movements. Highlight anomalies. Suggest options. In US military tests around 2023, AI-assisted targeting reduced decision time by up to 60%. That's the difference between reacting and acting first. But there's a catch. There's always a catch. Machines don't understand context. They understand patterns, which means they can be fooled. Feed them the wrong data, and they'll confidently give the wrong answer. Vast. In simulations, systems misidentified civilian vehicles as military convoys. Not because they're broken, because they're too literal. So the commander still decides. Always. Human judgment stays at the center. For now. And this creates a strange dynamic. Speed versus judgment. The machine says, X now. The human says, wait. Who's right? Sometimes the machine. Sometimes the human. Pick wrong. You don't get a second try. Now watch what happens when one layer breaks. Logistics. Fuel convoy destroyed. Simple event. Local right. No. That one loss means an armored unit 40 kilometers away can't move in 6 hours. That delay means a planned attack misses timing. That missed window gives the enemy time to reinforce. That reinforcement turns your planned victory into a stalemate. Or worse. This is the domino effect of war. And commanders try to see it before it happens. Not after. Too late then. Now add friction. That's a military term. It means everything that can go wrong will go wrong. Radios fail. Units get lost. Weather shifts. Orders misunderstood. In 1944, during Operation Market Garden, Allied troops landed miles from intended zones. The plan looked perfect on paper. Reality. Chaos. Modern tech reduces friction. It doesn't remove it. Bad weather alone can shut down drone operations. Wind over 40 km/h. Small drones become unstable. Heavy rain. Sensors degrade. Visibility drops. That perfect intelligence layer we talked about. Gone. Just like that. So commanders adapt. Constantly. Plans are never final. They're temporary guesses. Updated every hour. Sometimes every minute. And here's where it gets interesting. Not all decisions are tactical. Some are strategic. Bigger. Slower. More dangerous. This is where military meets politics. And things get complicated. Fast. Because now you're not just asking, can we win this battle? You're asking, should we even fight it? Take escalation. You have the ability to strike a high-value target. Militarily, it makes sense. Politically, it might trigger retaliation. Bigger. Worse. In October 1962, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, U.S. commanders prepared strikes on Soviet missile sites. They could have done it quickly, effectively, but leadership hesitated. Why? Because it could trigger a nuclear war. And once that starts, there's no off switch. So sometimes, the correct military decision is not to act. That's the hardest one. Because inaction feels like failure. But in war, restraint can be survival. Now step back. Look at the pattern. Across decades. Across wars. Across technologies. The same core challenge repeats. Information is incomplete. Time is limited. Risk is unavoidable. Humans are unpredictable. Technology changes. The problem doesn't. And here's the shift most people don't grasp yet. This is the one that changes everything. The math of war is breaking. That's the aha moment. Because for most of modern history, power meant expensive systems. Tanks, jets, warships, millions, sometimes billions of dollars. But now, a $500 drone can destroy a $3 million tank. A swarm of 20 cheap drones, total cost maybe $10,000, can overwhelm advanced air defenses. This flips the equation completely. In Ukraine, FPV drones are used for precision strikes. Operators like Petro guide explosive drones manually. Range 5 to 10 kilometers. Speed up to 140 km/h. One hit. That's it. No tank. So what happens inside the commander's mind now? The layers chained. Not in structure. In weight. Intelligence becomes faster but noisier. Time compresses even further. Risk multiplies, threats are everywhere. And logistics. It shifts from moving big systems to sustaining thousands of small ones. Different war. Same brain. And this is the real pressure. Scale. Not just one battlefield. Hundreds of micro-battles. Simultaneously. Each drone. Each unit. Each signal. All demanding attention. All demanding decisions. No human can track it all. So the system evolves again. More automation. More delegation. More reliance on lower-level decisions. Command becomes distributed. Spread out. A sergeant with a tablet can call a drone strike. Something that once required multiple command layers. Faster. More flexible. But also more dangerous if wrong. Because mistakes scale too. Faster decisions mean faster errors. And errors in war, they don't stay small. So after everything, all the layers, systems, technology, what is a commander really doing? They're managing uncertainty. That's it. Not eliminating it. Not controlling everything. managing it, moment by moment, decision by decision. Every choice creates a new path, most invisible at the time. Some lead to victory, some don't, and you only find out which after it's too late to change it. That's the weight, not the noise, not the explosions, the knowing that every decision matters. And none of them are certain. War isn't chaos inside a commander's mind. It's structure under pressure, a system pushed to its limits, and the difference between winning and losing, sometimes, is just who handled uncertainty better. War begins in silence, and it's decided in thought.